and welcome to the We Are Power podcast. The We Are Power podcast on tour in the Toon. We're over here having a wonderful visit into Newcastle, and today I am being joined by, he's a legend, Ammar Mirza CBE, entrepreneur, founder, Asian Business Connections, angel investor, supporter of the armed forces, and much more. Welcome to the pod. Thank you for welcoming us to Newcastle.
Brilliant. And welcome to the Toon and the Northeast, Simone. It's wonderful to have you up here. I know that you regularly compare our localities because of the similarity, and it's wonderful.
It is. I really always think there's that real similarity between Liverpool and Newcastle. It's the water, it's the heritage, it's the shipbuilding, and do you know what? It's the people, isn't it? Cheeky. Cheeky is what we are.
Yeah, well, you know, my wife's from Liverpool, so there you go.
Well, I was also delighted to present you with your 2024 Northern Power Women Advocacy badge, because this year, as part of the Northern Power Women Awards, we've created our very first advocacy list, of which you are one of our proud patrons. But it's the first time I've seen you.
Yeah, and it's probably the highlight of this year. Is what it is.
And we're in November. That's amazing.
Is for me. I think you're brilliant. I think what you do is brilliant. And I've already said this. I love what you do and the way that you do it as well, Simone. So
now you do so much. You only have to go to your website, your About You, experiencing everything, right? But how would you describe your career in one or two sentences? And I know that's quite ambitious for me to ask you to describe anything in one or two sentences.
Yeah, it's a great thing and it's a great question, and it's probably one of those moments at a dinner where someone says, "Oh, so what do you do?" And you go, "Oh,
today,
how do I actually not sit here and bore someone for such a lengthy time?" Probably two things I'll describe it if I was to take up your challenge, or three, because I love the power of three. Actually,
it's that negotiation right now.
Yeah, well, I just love the power of three is what I do, and so I fix things, or I make them better, or I make them better, and I only get involved in things where I add value.
Sure, I love that. I think everyone should live by that mantra.
So yeah, so that's. But it was a great question, and I was sort of reflecting on how best to answer that. Value, it's all about value, right?
And you know, we have our brand, We Are Power for Good. The we is right in the centre of it. And it's about using that power for good. And one of the things you are really passionate, we're both passionate about, is the armed forces.
Yes.
So talk to me about that honorary role and what it felt like to be awarded that.
So
amongst your other awards, by the way.
No, because I now apologise, because it's the one thing that really trumped pretty much everything else I was involved in.
Even the CBE.
Well, you know, it's up there, and I'll explain why. But so I was in the cadets, and probably as a precursor as to what do I do and why do I do it, Simone, and I'm inspired by you and the work that you do and the work that you've done through the we part of We Are Power. But growing up, I had limited proper influence, limited support, if any. I started working in a shop when I was 10 to support mum, and came home with a couple of quid and give it to mum. And the relevance to that was when I was 14, I was introduced to the cadets. And I remember up until that point, the lack of pretty much discipline, the lack of courage, the lack of organisation, and the lack of, you know, I'd get up there. I've always worked, but going somewhere where I could put something on and feel part of something, and there was this opportunity there to progress and learn, and you know, I, in a positive way, it contributed to my OCD, and And I remember having this conversation with Mum, and part of the challenge, and if you indulge me a little bit, because it's a bit of an interesting story, and it probably informed what I then done ever since those black and white days. But Mum really worked hard, and in those sort of from 8, where we were suffering from abject poverty, to when I was sort of 14, Mum had sort of done everything she could, and we moved an area. And there's a bus route, the number 1 bus, and it's probably the first bus in Newcastle and whatever else, and it goes through pretty much every single area in Newcastle. And I remember on a Tuesday and a Thursday sitting with my uniform, cadet uniform, and as a 14-year-old, you'd always be sat at the back of the top of the bus. And without a doubt, you'd go through affluent areas, and then you'd go to real sort of deprived and challenged areas, incredibly racist areas there were then. And kids would get on the bus and go, yeah, what are you doing, like? Going to the cadets. I'm hoping that was a Geordie accent. And inevitably, at least once a month, I'd end up, being proud and whatever else, and end up in a bit of a tussle. So Mum sort of said, son, you're not doing this, as in, and I'd go, no, but I love it. And, anyway, that was where my affinity and affiliation and appreciation of all armed forces came from. And then ever since then, so I wanted to join the army. I remember going to the careers and talking about Sandhurst and getting a letter, and Mum saying, you're not doing that. And that was the end of that. And roll forward a few decades. Since round about 2010, I started becoming a bit more of a business advocate of the armed forces. My nephew joined the Royal Marines Commando, and seeing what it done for him, and then lots of friends, and we're from the Northeast, and it's a bit like the Northwest. We contribute significantly to the armed forces. So it's that, it's all of that. And then I was asked, would you like to become the honorary colonel of the 101 regiment? And I'm going, yes. What does that mean? And then it was like, this is what it means. It was the first time in 124 years history of the regiment that they'd recruited someone outside, and more, I suppose, explicitly, an Asian as well, right? A Geordie Asian, which was incredibly proud.
But you've not only taken that role and put the uniform on again, maybe not on the bus this time, who knows, but the one thing that you have done is really help create this cadet apprenticeship pathway.
Yeah.
You've been influential in that. So, we talked earlier about using your power for good. This motivation and intent starts so early, and now you're doing something with us. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I mean, going back to those black and white days on the bus, my life could have quite easily gone down 2 different routes, right? As in, you can either hang around with those people that you probably shouldn't, but when someone tells you not to do something, you always go, well, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And as a parent, what do you know, Mum? And then you become a parent and you go, gosh, they were so right. Anyway, and because of those opportunities and those lack of role models and all of those things, I realized that, well, actually, first part, I ran away for a period of time to London, right? I joined the civil service. I was in the British Council, and then came back, wasn't the opportunities, went and had a career for 10 years in innovation in IT, working. I helped build a data center in Knowsley, and had offices at Albert Dock that I went to as well. So really great affinity with Liverpool. Anyway, coming back to the cadet apprenticeship pathway. So for the last, I then resigned from that role in 2003. And since then, I went about addressing all of the things that I never had. So all of those opportunities, all of that support, so creating, going back into education. And then one of the things that we realized as an employer, as a very active employer, appreciative of apprenticeships, I wanted to do something to raise the profile of apprenticeships in a positive way. And every bit of feedback that employers give is young people aren't work ready. And actually we went through 50 apprentices. And I think at that time there was about 8 that completed the apprenticeship. The rest weren't ready, right? So I was like, we need to do something about this. So we created, with Lieutenant Colonel Andy Black, we came up with this cadet apprenticeship pathway and developed this initiative, which recognizes that cadets are work ready. They have all of the skills, the soft skills, and it addresses some of the apprenticeship issues that employers feel.
And you talked about your career. So we've gone to being on the bus as the cadet, and then going that down to their London, civil service, business, IT. Where did the community building and the entrepreneurship and the investing, where did that all come from? Where did that come as part? Because this is all really different, isn't it? It's a big Ammar jigsaw, this one.
Yeah, no, it is. And thank you for that analogy. I'm still looking for the missing pieces somewhere as well. I think I'm going to use that and say Simone called me a jigsaw, and I'm going to say there's a couple of pieces missing from it.
You'd always have extra pieces. There'd be never any missing, I don't think.
Yeah, I'll just put them in. But yeah, that career. So Mum was an incredible influence, and actually I ran away. So my late father, who I had both an incredible relationship with, but at the time we had a typical father and son type relationship, and Dad went off to Saudi, left Mum, and Mum was an entrepreneur. She was never meant to be, but there was enterprising. She sat on a sewing machine for 18 hours a day, sewing clothes, and then bought property, and then lost all the property with a crash, and then started again, and she just sort of powered on, and that was a big influence. But the community part, my late father, he was one of the first leaders of the community here, and actually that drove me away from that first and foremost, because they left. And I was like, well, I seen Dad do all of these, constantly people coming round. He was a general secretary. He was educated. He taught. He was the most educated Asian at the time, because vast majority low skilled people came to support the economy here. Dad and all of his brothers were Professor G's, is what they called them, and he done that. And I thought, I don't want to do that. But then we reconnected, and I think that was an influence. But also going back to that element of, I'd spent 10 years building my career, lived in isolation, lived in a bubble, and I came back and I thought, you know what, I want to give back. I feel obligated to. I've might have gone on to make my own sort of path and done what I've done. But the most critical thing that you can do is help others sort of achieve, right?
And sometimes people don't know how to. Sometimes people think, I want to, but I don't know how to, because I don't want to patronise or interfere. What would you say to people out there?
That's it's a great point, and people have this perception that, Simone, we need to give back in a particular way. And giving back can be as simple as talking to somebody in the street, or your son or daughter's friend might be struggling, or it might be someone at work that just needs to have a conversation. So giving back doesn't need to be this grandiose gesture. It's just, my ambition was never for it to be about me. And we chuckle about selfies, right? Because you're the selfie queen.
What are they?
You're the selfie queen, right? But as the selfie king, and there is a bit of a competition here, but it's healthy in every sense. The reason why I know what I look like, right? I look at myself every day. The reason why I started taking selfies and went on this mission was to promote other people, right? Because A, I'm keen to do that. B, there's a moment in time where whether it's a forced smile or not, they're smiling, right? You have a memory. And believe it or not, I looked through my 175,000 pictures that I now have. And on them, there's a number of people that aren't here, right? So sadly, and one individual in particular was an ABC award winner, and I was at a wedding with him, and I've known him for a long time. Lovely person. And it was the last picture that we took. So those type of somber things, and it's not just about those somber things, but it's about those memories. And there's a number of those people that aren't here anymore, but it's actually about those that are, right? And it's about showcasing them. So giving back, right, might be as simple as I'm going to be in Simone or Ammar's selfie, right? Because if they're promoting me and they're showcasing me, I'm prepared to put my head above the parapet, because that's what we need more of, right?
100%. And I think if we want to shine a light and spotlight, that's where the simple giving back can be. You know, I do it, and you and I are always the one who's, everyone else looks great in it. We've got the awkward face right in the front, right, haven't we?
Like,
But it is about
grimace.
that. It's better than a business card.
Yeah.
And it's a way to go, this is where we had a conversation, so therefore we must continue it. Because sometimes you can be at an event and all of a sudden it's a moment in time. Oh, it's not about a braggy I was there. It's about this is the start of that conversation.
Of course it is.
And some people are not always keen to do it because they feel like, oh God, it feels, I'm out of my comfort zone to do it. So we make it easier, right?
Well, I believe so. I think so, and you're absolutely right.
Sorry,
in what
there's a whole podcast on selfies here, but then
no, but it's because it's a critical part of us giving back. Is my point, right?
I now need to get my phone and count how many I got, because we did have a challenge pre this.
And that's why I said that figure.
Who had the most? So I'm riled now a little bit. I'm riled to go away and thank you. Yeah, it's got. Hold on a minute.
Yeah, we need to check this. This is
4,572 gazillion.
Brilliant. Obviously, that's the case. So those 27 that you've got, Simone, compared to
wait a minute. Yeah, but have you ever had one on a live podcast? Just putting it out there.
Here we go. We've got one now, right? And brilliant. There we go.
It's brilliant that for people watching or people listening. It's not going to work well, is it? But anyway, it is. But it's done with intent, isn't it? You know.
And this is the point, right? Simone, is sadly we live, and you know, sort of jesting aside, we live in a space, in a place where people now are offended at not being offended, right? Everyone is purely fixated on the negativity that's going on. So people struggle with, oh my gosh, why is Ammar celebrating this? And why is Ammar there? And look, where's Wally? Where's Ammar? And it's like, what? And it's like, yeah, because I'm trying to showcase other people, right? And that's one way of giving back. I mean, there's a whole range, charities. I set up a charity in 2013, you know, so which was, I've talked about competition because of the environment I lived in. So I had 3 brothers, 2 sisters, 3 stepsisters. At times in our life, I was permanently and constantly hungry. So and literally that. So you know, navigating your way, sat there saying, I don't want to be poor, and I'm going to address that. And then I don't want others to be poor, and trying to help them through 3 different things. So health, wealth, and happiness. And those 3 things, I feel, is what we should be supporting people to do. But the problem with that is, because of the negativity that exists, you sometimes end up, I'm still a really sensitive person, right? People find this so extraordinary when I say I'm an introvert, right? And because it contradicts what I do and how I do it. And actually, because of this constant, I just want to change the world, it becomes hard at times, right? It becomes, oh my gosh, I'm a bit tired, right? And I just want to sit in a room by myself. And I love my own company, right? I love everybody else's, obviously, but having gone through the various challenges and you know, a problem shared is a problem shared, but actually it's important to talk about the challenges and how you've overcome them, so that others can go, well, I can do that too. And having experienced all of those challenges, and I excuse the crudeness of this, But I feel as if I've been kicked in the Goonies so many times, I should have a squeaky voice, right? Is what I should have. And it's, how do you deal with that? Well, actually, you just get up and you get out, and you're just on a mission to help other people. I mean, you're the expert at this. I'm inspired by you.
But it's interesting you talk about being an introvert. So that surprises me, but also doesn't, because I speak to many other motivating, committed humans like yourself, and they'll say, actually, I'm an introvert. So it doesn't shock me. But you know, when you say sometimes people want to pull it down, or, you know, because you can't be that happy all the time. We're both very positive people.
Yeah.
We both love other people, and we both want to change the world. There's a duet in this, but that's a whole other thing.
Can you sing?
Oh, absolutely badly, really,
Can
really
you?
badly.
Brilliant.
Yeah, 100%.
All right.
But, yeah, just not this minute. But what do you do to get over that? Because people think, always smiling, always on it, always over it. He's tough enough to take whatever I say. But sometimes it hurts, right?
It always hurts.
Yeah.
Right? It's not sometimes. It's not sometimes. It always hurts. But that's a brilliant question, because what do? I don't want to change my personality. I want to be that positive person. That's who I am. You know, as in, that's my suit of armor, is being positive. And actually, if you constantly and consistently are, despite those squeaky voices, right, that you might get, the opportunity there is that you can't be held down. You might be dragged down, but you can't be held down. And it's like, it's that feel good. And actually, if you can help someone smile and see someone smile, whether it's in a selfie or whether it's whatever it is, you've made someone slightly happy.
Can I just talk about the advocacy, right? We created this year the Northern Power Women Awards advocacy list. Seems a bit crazy where it's the 9th year of Northern Power Women Awards under We Are Power. We've always been inclusive of all genders. That's something I've been totally clear about. It was always really important to collect the good guys. And so when we created this list, I wanted to have some patrons that I didn't want naturally on the list, because I want them to be guardians. And when I reached out to you, you were like, hell yeah. It was almost without really much brief or interest. But why is that advocacy so important to you? You know, you've talked clearly about having a strong man, a strong Northeast man.
Yeah.
But why is that advocacy?
I think first and foremost, it's someone like you making the magic happen, right? So I've disappeared. For the benefit of the tape. So advocacy for me, it's always about making sure that you support others. My lived experiences, I say this very openly. I don't know what it's like to be a woman, and I'll never ever profess to. But I can certainly say and feel and know what it's like to be a son, to be a husband, to be a single parent. So I was a single parent for a long time with my daughter, which was quite unique, right? So when I'm talking about the challenges, and the challenges aren't exclusive to women. It's about recognizing, I think that, you know, and that's one thing that I've always admired and appreciated about what you've set out to do, right? It is about women, right? As in supporting, promoting, connecting. But actually, it's not or men, it's and men. And that's why, you know, for me, the advocacy list is something I'm incredibly proud of. It chimes with what I stand for. And that's not for 1 second to suggest that I don't appreciate or don't want to promote or acknowledge men. And I know that that's exactly your mission as well. And just on that note, you know, one of the things that I've done, so a bit like supporting, promoting women, I feel it my moral, ethical, and professional duty to be supporting and promoting white boys and white middle-aged men, because they can't speak out for themselves, because it'd be like, oh well, of course you're going to say this because you've ran the world forever and whatever else. Well, that's quite wrong. It's we can't leave anybody behind. So the first thing is we need to lift and support women to realize their ambitions and raise their aspirations and help them understand that they can be whatever they want to be and deserve to be. But in parallel to that, we need women, and I know this is exactly what you're doing. As you're going up that ladder, you're pulling up the men that are getting left behind as well. And that's why this advocacy list and this patronage to me is a beautiful thing.
And it's not a list, it's a work in progress, isn't it?
Of course it is. No, but I meant as in it's like,
but that's
we've
got you to work already, haven't we?
Oh, well, here I am. I've flown back especially just for this, is what I have.
So quick fire round. You have a side hustle on a radio show, Spice Radio.
Yeah.
Who's been your favourite interviewee?
You.
Ah. You've got so much going on, managing those side hustles. What's the top tip? Keeping all the plates spinning.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
So many tote bag moments. We talk about tote bag moments and T-shirts in this podcast, and there's a million here today. And dare I ask, what's next?
Internationalisation, taking our Northeast global.
But it already is, isn't it?
No, but as in to do it effectively. So when you're saying what next, I built a 10,000 square foot international trade centre at Newcastle Airport to bring the world closer here. We've got Saudi, we've got Turkey, we've got India, and we're now taking regional businesses out there as well. So having a dedicated space in place where We Are Power features, we're going to get your lights there. We're going to showcase the social mobility and the impact of this campaign and this community that you've created.
And I think there's that quote, I always love it. She believed she could, so she did.
Yeah.
What is the quotation that chimes with you?
Well, it's that see it, be it one, to be honest. It's unless you can see it. So a lot of the time, and just very briefly going back to, my why, and why do I keep putting my head above the parapet? And I wrote a blog about this called the Parapet Parable, which is a bit of a tongue twister. But anyway, it's about sticking your head above the parapet and the fact that that's what you need to do. So we need more people to stick their head above the parapet. And yes, it becomes a target, but duck down when they're shooting those bows, and get back up there and make the world a better place.
And I love your Power 3. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
You're either here to fix it, make it better, add value, health, wealth, happiness. One of the ones which wasn't a 3, by the way, but I love the fact that you can be dragged down, but you can't be held down.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to hold you down. Take us with you on your internationalisation.
You're there. You're there.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Ammar is our superstar. And thank all of you for listening, for watching, coming on our adventure to Newcastle as we've come on tour for this week's podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Please stay connected on all our channels and wearepower.net.
Thank you.